No, my patience is gone. I guess I just, as we say in Sweden, take the bull at its horns. What's it called? I don't know. Ta tjuren vid hornen. I just thought that, well, it's a complicated topic, and it's in itself, I think, supposed to not even be talked about, and because it ruins it, destroys the mysticism of it. And well, there are many reasons. Usually I would not do it for many reasons, but there's certain quite extreme circumstances in my life that started to happen to sort of, is it three, yeah, it's, I think it's March 2002, that sort of, the more time goes, it's more odd and odd, and for me it's like, well, it's sort of a mix of just a shrug and something extreme that affects me a lot, and it's, yeah, figure it better to talk about it, and also because I think it's a problem, and that needs to be talk about the solved. I don't know exactly the magnitude of all this, and but what has happened is that I've been sort of observing that many people, I don't know how many, really waste their lives in sort of decoding letters and signaling and stuff, and they waste their lives because your thoughts are your opportunity cost, and if you're sort of a game and you're doing this, it's so extremely wasteful of time that it is, you're wasting your fucking life. I mean, it's insane. You will never accomplish something really significant if you're, and I think it's, I don't want to say it because it's perhaps even more harmful and easier to get trapped in if you're a woman, but I think it's more, let's say, understandable that you get caught in it. Mainly because, yeah, subtle communication is more of a women's game, more of a thing that you do, and it's also, even men do it too. I mean, one of the most attractive things a man could be sort of understanding, handling, or at least, yeah, just how should you put it? Yeah, perhaps it goes without saying, and that's part of the thing of it, that it's just, yeah, the unclear, the lack of clarity is part of the thing, and that's why it's difficult to sort of put a word on it. But I also, there are so many thoughts connected to it, but it's also about sort of deceptive behaviors. It's correlated with that in terms of, and one way to go at this is just this. There's a lot of science in biology and evolutionary biology that unfortunately says that one of the best ways to keep someone's interest is to send mixed signals, and not everyone would know what that means. It's like, most people are like, huh, yeah, I knew that. But that it's scientifically actually validated that it's a good way. That's really, speaking of sad things, as I did in the previous video, that's really a sad thing, because it can definitely be abused, and since it is this sort of letters game, or using letters to indicate what you're signaling, it's I mean, I think it can be really excusable if it's just small thing that some people do for sort of a couple or anything, that's sort of fine, and as long as it's not overdone. I mean, it could be quite so, but to indulge in it much and like continuously, I mean, it's worse for the person who are actively engaged in it and engaged in it. Unfortunate use of words here, because engagement should be sort of the opposite in engaging in this type of thing, or at least the extreme of it. Well, I know I lost my train of thought here, but yeah, it's so sending mixed signals is sort of a way to keep an interest and attracting partner, unfortunately, and or I mean, it's natural in some sense to just, well, some guys might do, but just go up to someone and say you're very interested. I mean, yeah, but it's still usually even men are not that straightforward, or at least there's some insecurity about it not being too sort of easy to get, I guess, which is also part of the playing hard thing, which is, yeah, all sort of ridiculous on the one hand. On the other hand, it's natural to not, I mean, have sort of standards, or to just be a bit skeptical, and at least initially. But so, and why this letters thing is like, if you just have a word and so decode the letters, construct the sentences, there's so many things that can be interpreted of it. I mean, it's almost not unlimited, but yeah, sort of. And the more intelligent you get, the more advanced deduction of it you can do, and therefore it just becomes extreme waste of time, because if you're, I mean, I guess the more intelligent you are, the more you realize that you can go so extremely deep in it that yeah, it's easy to underestimate or overestimate the intelligence of the other person. It's like it can, so, and it's, yeah, as I said, it can be fun, but don't get stuck in it. It's like the opportunity cost is wasted life. It's a habit, so that's why I think meditation is good. It practices your brain to shut off things that's not constructive or suitable for your development and so forth. But why it is so potent as a mind drug or a meme, as in the sense that Jürgen Douglas talk about memes in ways, and it's really a virus, I think. And I don't know how widespread it is. This is a backstory to this that I haven't talked about, but I was sort of involved in it, and I think it's, so I've just been put in situations that are like, seems to be a bit more prevalent than I've ever noticed. And so I don't know how widespread it is in general, but if it's in many parts of the world, or then I think it's like, yeah, it is a virus, I guess. But it just destroys people's head. It's just rotten head, cabbage of it all. So yeah, and it, especially if it's in love, I mean, which is so addictive, then the decoding risks being addictive. So shield yourself off it, and it's so, as I mentioned, it's so open for misunderstanding and stuff. So. And well, there's so many trains of this that's interesting to decode, but just so I don't know what's no, just figuring out what's next. Yeah, so clarification on why what's that to me with mixed signal. I mean, in the nature of mixed signals, it's really the recipe for a perfect mixed signal. You just throw it out there, and that person can go a lifetime basically, I think you can decode something in a lifetime. Just go through that decoding letters process, and that's perfect. It can be complete opposites. So, and yeah, you can. I mean, it's not that it is necessarily. How should I put it? It can be sort of constructive in one direction, even if you're some like sort of intelligent, like sort of obvious in some sense that it's sort of in an indication in one direction. That's probably why it can be used like sort of constructively a bit, but in general, I think it's like alcohol, drink responsibly. Yeah, so and another way I think why it's more should you put it, excusable for women to use it, but as dangerous, because it's more potent for women are more focused on social relationships than men are. Even though we all as a human species is extremely socially oriented, men are more oriented to the things, so it's not that risky to be addicted to it, even if the risk is, I guess, extremely high anyway, for both sexes, genders, whatever. So, but the reason, because women are more focused on it and the social things, which this sort of communication is, and secondly, they're more sort of, I mean, women has I can connect the dark triad on this: narcissism, Machiavellianism, psychopathy. Those three, most people use psychopathy, whatever, as a psychopath, never mind. They use that word as indicating manipulative behavior, which is sort of true, I guess. I mean, if you don't care about someone, then you can manipulate them. But what's interesting when you in the field science, where you boil them down to these three traits, what's manipulative is mostly the Machiavellian type. So I mean, you can, I guess, be psychopath without being manipulative. You can just don't care. Psychopathy is more like you don't care about people's feelings. If they're dreaming, you just like have to shrug for them, but you're not necessarily manipulating someone. And what's shown is that in science of it is that narcissism and first of all, I won't go through all the details on this. I mean, I guess I'll have to find a way to get paid for all this information. So no, I will not. I won't give you all on this. I mean, it's extremely valuable, so I should. I mean, the book that costs money, and so. But what I can say is that narcissism and psychopathy is more prevalent in men than in women, and Machiavellian behavior is more common in women than in men. And that's not like for the same reason. I mean, indirect behavior or sort of manipulating. I mean, as an evolutionary strategy, women are more sort of reliant on social relationships than men can be, even if it's still like really reliable. Have to rely on that as well. Women are more. I mean, it's science behind this. The brains differs a bit in where we're focused on and stuff, and and sort of men have always had the upper hand when it comes to physical strength and stuff like that. And I mean, bonding between men can be like super strong. I mean, teamwork wise, like building a group. I mean, it's even more sort of a group thing in men sometimes. I mean, yes, women group is also bond group. That is sort of more, I mean, it's more common with just two girls being really close friends, and even that happens between men too. I mean, it's more of a sort of group thing. It's sort of hard to generalize, but it's still the case that this part is something that I sort of have a thought of about for a while, so I have to think a bit to remember it. But you know if it's my own thoughts or if I read it somewhere. But it's sort of the thing that women. Let's see. I need to remember this. One way to get at it is to say that there's a higher need of being able to navigate social relationships. You're sort of more, even though it's like hard to say that because it's almost as important for men too. But I guess it's, if you're not the one getting the resources or making the plans. I mean, men is very oriented on sort of physical stuff, like the classical thing is sort of rotation of an object in space. I mean, or just map navigation or whatever is. It's usually men. Some men are better at that than women. Women are better at, I don't remember what if it's something social and stuff, but so, and that explains sort of that it's more common for women to be a bit more manipulative. Not necessarily have to be a lot. I mean, it's just to be reasonable. We all have these traits in us. It's just the question if it's too much. Because it usually these are classified as destructive behaviors, not only for those around you, but actually for yourself as well. So that's important to know if you happen to be afraid that you're have some of these traits. It's actually bad for you. It's harder to change psychopathy and narcissism. It's more connected to genes, but I don't remember. I guess it can be a bit. But manipulative behavior is actually more easier to change. It's more sort of nature than nurture than nature, I guess. And I guess that's for good and bad, because you can have things that happen in your life that makes you more prone to go in that direction, so that you become more manipulative, and that's for sure not good. Actually, bullying is something that I've heard increases the risk that you become manipulative later in life. So yeah, but so sort of navigating social relationship or communication and sort of relationship, what happens between human beings, is of course an invaluable skill for all human beings. But it becomes more exclusively the focus, sort of, for women. I mean, I shouldn't exaggerate. There are many women who are sort of focused on the material world as well, but I guess it's so all these are generalizations. My point here is not necessarily to make it that we're extremely different, but I do have a very strong appreciation and respect for the biology, and that we're basically built differently because we have different adaptive problems to solve, as I mentioned in some recent post about this, when it comes to choosing partner and making sure that you invest in your offspring, and which is unique for human to do a lot, and all those things. So but anyway, where were I? The reason why it's more understandable that women get stuck in is that it is on average more like it's more important to sort of navigate or perhaps be a little bit manipulative in your behavior, or not manipulative, more by handling other people, knowing what spot to put on, what button to put to push on in order to get a certain reaction. I mean, that's sort of handling people, manipulative behavior, or just. And so it's a hard line. When does it come manipulation? When is it just being able to persuade in a good manner, about something good for a good human being? I mean, that's if I have something good, a good person that I want to be persuaded about doing something good. I mean, you're not manipulative just because you're good at persuading that person, but the skills in doing that is sort of potent. I mean, I guess it's manipulation when it's, and this is actually quite hard to dissect because there are different, like the definition of manipulation. Some would say, well, it's actually about if it's good for the other person. I think sound proud now, but I think my ethical standards is a bit higher. I think if you see it as if you're here, the other person is there, I'm going to make that person sort of, you see him that as someone who you're playing with in a certain sense, you're something that's it's not bonding, it's not cooperation in making that person. It's sort of a distance. You have a distance to the person, and so you're sort of sneaky, trying to get that person in that direction. I'm sorry for the harsh words if it feels like you're points at you, but I'm sort of disgusted over that behavior. But I mean, there are people that sort of can accept that. You can see the part and just go, wow, it's not too bad, give it a pass. And so but and I won't go too deep into this, like human relationship, women, but I mean in relationships, well, it's quite funny, but I think everyone knows that there's certain truths, so to speak, that's sort of self-evident. I mean, human relationship and how we handle each other's emotions and how we sort of push on different buttons, testing, whatever it is. I mean, some of it is obviously sort of manipulative, and for good or bad. I mean, as again, it could be done in different ways, and it's not. I don't think I'm going to dissect that too much, but I'll also throw in something else here. Is how it's pronounced. But I just, to be clear on the latter thing, don't waste your life in it. It's and decoding trying to ruin other people's brain by signaling with it. I mean, for reasonable extent, yes, but otherwise you're robbing all other person of what you could contribute to society, and you're robbing yourself of achievement. So it's a strategy for some things, but it's you're pretty far down the risk being quitting. And I also think it makes people sort of manipulative also. I think your good-minded people can actually like get trapped in it, and so, and also since the insecurity about it, I think you're but just because it's sort of there's so much mixed signals in it, you risk, and especially since it's something that's not sort of gene oriented, it's really something that you can change. I think there's a risk. I don't want, as I said in the beginning, I sort of get, there's some guys in the US that sort of pranked me some years ago. I was there long ago, and they sort of pranked me, and it's still sort of ongoing thing, and so And I think that one of the reasons is that they wanted to get to the bottom of this, so sort of they're not necessarily people I think of as extremely manipulative. Good-minded people that just doing something quite horrible, let's say, to make things straight. But yeah, that's another thing. But not sure if I should go too deep into it. But I do think there's very high risk in getting too stuck in that. It's worth repeating again. I mean, you can waste your life. It's highly recommend and just start to learn to meditate or something and block your way from it. I don't know how common it is to be stuck in it, and just a little is perhaps fine, but I also think that some good-minded people can get trapped in it. And yeah, as I said, why the reason is you can get trapped in it, and I think it molds your brain to become more sort of Machiavellian, more manipulative. To be clarified, these three dark triad is narcissism, Machiavellian, and psychopathy. Machiavellian is the name for manipulation, manipulative behavior. Even though Machiavelli actually, his book is, as my father said when he read it, I gave him a present just because it was a famous book. He said that the author probably deserves a better destiny than give the name to Machiavellian behavior, and I think it's some sort of a bit right. I mean, there are some passages that really are very Machiavellian, but they're also a bit realistic. So you can understand both. Yeah. Well, never mind. It's definitely not an argument for using manipulative behavior, but. As a side note, but yeah, so Machiavelli is manipulative behavior. I just making that obvious so it's clear. No, I forgot where I was going with this more, but yeah. So since there's so insecurity about sort of, I really think it damages relationship because you become insecure about the other person's real intention. It's very, very hard to really know. It can be a way to sort of initiate something. You can sort of give a signal, well, can perhaps, what do you think about this? But you protect yourself in a way also with it, and because you perhaps don't dare to suggest it. My take on this is that you're substituting genuine communication by sort of protecting and or wanting to sort of deceive the other person, depending on who you are. But if it's a good-minded person, it's more sort of it's an escape route for not genuine communication. And if you think others involved in it, I mean, I've seen an example of people who think either sort of really misinterpreting that, or it can be so deceptive that they want you to think that they have interpreted something that, or just indicating, well, think about it in this way, and it's but so yeah, the risk, why there are risks with it, risks with it for good people is that it invites an insecurity, so you become more and more second guessing other person, how good they actually are. So you think of them as well, is that really maybe you just said that because of then the mixed signals and stuff, which it's intertwined in this letter signaling. So yeah. Terrific topic to talk about on Alla hjärtans dag. What's that called in the US and or in English? Love Day. All Hearts Day. I don't know. Just because I don't like the most common sort of as you learn as a child is sort of there, sort of I heart you perhaps, or and used to sort of this signaling, which is kind of cute. I mean, children and love, but so. But perhaps it's the best opportunity to do it, because I think it's more common in love, and it's more common to get stuck in it, at least if one of them is a woman, I think, because they're not to blame women necessarily, but to have some sort of reservoir, or what was the name, sort of forgiveness in that they can be more. I mean, it's sort of ingrained in their survival to not perhaps be too direct in all type of communications, but that is not an excuse of deceptive behavior, which is disgusting in any type of form. Yeah, there's something more. Yeah, and I also think, and also some sort of, let's say, why do I want to say reservoir? I don't know, but yeah, sort of forgiveness, or to be understanding. Or I think sort of, it's my guess is that if you sort of generalize and say people that are more deep, mysterious perhaps, which I won't, not sure I'm going to categorize myself here. You're the one too. But I'm not. I mean, I think people are deep on different ways. I mean, the depth of human personality and sort of how you behave is intertwined with the mystery of existence, if you ask me. I mean, that's not a way me trying to be woo-woo, or just what do you call it, deep without substance. I mean, I actually think that's the case. Sort of the unexplored territory of character and emotion. I think it's intertwined with certain aspects of consciousness, and I mean, material world is mystic. That's sort of why I have a sort of, why this reservoir comes up again, sort of a part of my brain, let's say, to sort of have some respect for religion, and not sort of the hardcore atheist camp, but with respect also for that, you can really mess up your mind believing things that you wish to be true, but just because it's more interesting and mysterious. But yeah, so again, so not without classifying myself on that scale, I think, and that's the thing, I think it's like intelligences. I don't think, believe in IQ perhaps is quite an indication of intelligence, but I really like to think of it as multiple sort of intelligence that you have, and I think that's the same with depth, if that's not the same as intelligence, sort of, you have different types of it. And when it comes to this, when I see something that's so destructive and manipulative, I really, that's a depth I sacrifice for just asinine behavior. It ruins the world, bit by bit. So yeah, and no, I lost my train of thought here again. Guess I'm blame, and we'll blame. I'm a bit sleep deprived. Memory's not on top. Compensate with coffee. So yeah, that's now I've explored that topic. What a relief. I think it's so important. I mean, it's not a good thing to get too trapped in. And there's one thing more that very intertwined with this that's insane, and that is why I have a difficulty in knowing how what I mean. It's intrinsic of it to not speak about it because that reveals the mystery of it, I guess. But another thing that since I've this prank that started for me, or my one or many really sort of rich people I met in the US many years ago made sort of a prank on me. I mean, it's difficult. Well, not difficult, but it's a bit strange to talk about because people will usually say, well, it's easy to think of it as someone who's just schizophrenic and just make up things in his head because it's so extreme. But I thought, well, when it comes to these type of things, I prefer the direct approach of just head on discussing it, and I don't. Yeah, there in the beginning I thought of myself as maybe I'm just imagining things, but and that was sort of part of the game, sort of to make an. I mean, this is sort of an investment game thing that, I mean, it's clarified later on that it's sort of an investment thing that some guys, I don't know exactly how they're doing it and why it, but I mean, new initiatives that are done everywhere in the world, and some are more sort of deeper than others, but and this is sort of I think it was a mega prank that have some purpose, but I don't have sort of direct communication with them. The guy who is doing this is sort of he on his distance, having his smile on me when we were doing this, and it's a very special way to initiate or take up in a relationship. But yeah, it is what it is, and I mean, it's flattering for one part, but it's also nasty. It's extremely nasty, and one of the reasons that I speculate about why it's nasty is perhaps because there's some science that supports that traumatic experiences is the only thing that really change your mind deeply if you're, or at least after sort of 25 to 30, then the only thing that really change your mind is that. And they tried to give me some of that, I think, and it is what it is. But I don't think that's the original intention or the most potent sort of intention, because obviously it didn't work, even though it made me definitely. And there's some people who probably who I met that I worked with at some circumstances realized that I really did some things that was sort of out of what's usual what people do, and a part of that explanation, some of them might be watching this, is that I was probably under the influence of these really nasty things that if they would happen in your life, well, it's about pain tolerance, just do something really nasty. And I mean, like, really nasty. I mean, we're talking things that you want to kill the other person now. So this is, and now people are going into, if someone watches, I don't even know if someone watches at all. We can see views on X. But when I say that, people are probably going, okay, who is he? Probably not just making that up, and that's part of the thing here. And what I realize is that I can just observe that I was quite surprised, even though I suspected that the person, we had certain interaction that I thought, well, he's probably watching me, sort of have sort of a hint of what I'm or sort of gist of what because we had sort of an interaction where I sort of invited of meeting him later here in Stockholm, Sweden. And we met a couple of times. I was in the US a couple of times, and so I was not surprised when it started, even though when the prank sort of started, I think it was 5 years after we had met. I didn't realize it was him. It took a while, but then it just snapped and I understood. So why do I bring up this? Well, because I think the initiative, one of the reasons it is made is because it's want to eliminate really this virus. And one way to do that is making, I mean, this is a guy that's super into marketing and understanding the human brain and stuff, super bright. So, and the best type of marketing are things that evoke emotions. I mean, marketing and emotion, I mean, that's how the brain works. That's how, I mean, cognitively, how you sort of get drive. It's make decisions. It's then also one, I don't know, I guess, I mean, I think this is sort of difficult to getting at, sort of, because it's sort of so flattering that it is a bit what's the word, arrogant to just or just not so what's the word, you basically sound quite narcissistic to believe that you're affected of this, and that's why I'm quite hesitant to explore and discuss it, because it's, first of all, it's like, well, is it, if it's actually happening? The second is like, what do you have to think about yourself and how do you be to really believe that? And so I can have some sympathy to being skeptical, but it is what it is. So and it's better to try to convey the truth and try to speak about the truth than, I mean, and risk being misinterpreted or yeah. I mean, that's a good, and so why I made this sort of well, I lost my train of thought where I was going again, but it's yeah, again, with the risk being sort of perceived as very, let's say, up in my own brain, just focused on myself. One reason that, I mean, maybe I'm not the only one. Maybe there's thousands of people who are doing this sort of long-term, slow-pay prank on. But why I've been chosen is perhaps, I think I sort of I don't want to know why the purpose of all this. I mean, quite lost in it. So it's actually a pain in the ass. I mean, a real fucking pain in the ass. But to the extent that I've been flattered, and it's not, I mean, if you tend to think about the, as I said, the thing that they did that was quite one of the nastiest thing you can do. It's so it's not sort of flattering, but flattering that I'm sort of get an opportunity to sort of explore it, or perhaps that I mean, I'm not famous at all, not yet, no, but speaking of that, I'm not sure if you want to be famous. I mean, I've always had the view on that if you, no, this is silent, but if you someone who can have a really positive influence on society, if you're famous, then you have a responsibility to try to be it. And that's really hard to understand if you have that capacity But along with my other views on life is that you basically have a moral obligation to try to contribute as much as possible. One way of doing that is usually have quite big influence, meaning being sort of famous. So even though that's sort of in its is it Linda, what's that in English, in its beginnings, it's no, so I'm not famous at all, but I think if you're trying to sort of get at why is it, why doing this, you could say sort of that it's done because I want to think that I have sort of good ability to just speak the truth and just go direct. I'm usually a very introverted person in many cases. I mean, some would categorize me as extremely introverted. Actually, like many instances, I really am. I usually put it in a way that I don't have difficulty to talk when it's obvious that I should talk. Speeches is one of the things that I've always been good at, and being brought up as the only child, you don't get the instinct to just, you have to speak to get your things, because your parents just get all the attention, so you don't really have to do anything, for good and bad. But anyway, but I think I have some sort of a skill to direct communication, just speaking about stuff that's perhaps difficult to talk about, and just, yeah, I don't know. So it's a mystery for me, and sooner or later people will not classify me as some schizophrenic fool, even though no one does now, basically. Well, some do, because there's one or two thing involved in this, beside this extreme thing that's sort of one of the nastiest thing you can do to a human being. It's another thing that's sort of almost as nasty, which involves a person or some people that it's still sort of ongoing, but sort of calmed down now, and those are probably only people, except for my sort of, so yeah, a few people I mentioned this to, but they, I guess, think that I'm just making this up and everything, but and this is a long story. It's intertwined and all this that has happened, and so yes, but I think it's better to just speak it out with just on the internet. I mean, who knows, maybe someone has encountered something similar, or any sense stuck in it, then you better reach out, because you don't want to be stuck in it alone. But yeah, what if my sort of worst nightmare would come true? No, I haven't really thought about that as a nightmare, but I think it's quite interesting. Just get someone just commented and thought, oh shit, that guy is insane. Oh, what is he stuck in? Does he really believe it? I mean, I'm usually, well, speaking about toughness and pain and stuff, we can switch topic. We can talk about pain, Mr. Brain. Because first of all, I think pain tolerance, it can be dangerous, because, well, not all pain is healthy, but I also think it's among the most valuable thing you can endure, and I think I shy with appreciation of pain tolerance, for good and bad. Not trying to virtue signal too much here, but I think it's good to have. But I also think it's different types of it, different on the spectrum of it, so, like, for example, I just think about it because it would be quite challenging to sort of get the schizophrenic stamp in your forehead just like that, especially in the social sort of context of the internet. So, I mean, probably not many people are seeing it that way, so it doesn't matter that much. But if what someone does, it's yeah, I think about what it would mean. I mean, because those type of things, like the social things, you really heard among sort of many famous people. Well, they're starting to get famous, they still read the comments and get all the nasty stuff, and yeah, I've actually experienced that. There was one guy in sort of a short video. I think it was, I'll put it up on YouTube. Sort of, yeah, it has happened. Other Facebook as well, but you realize how many who's just sitting there in their homes and doing really. It's so sad that they sort of get out. The only way for them to sort of get a connection in life is writing angry comments. But yeah, it's it is what it is. So yeah, so that will be really interesting how many people will miscategorize my thoughts here as insane or something like that. And it's also quite a possibility that this letter thing that I was talking about is not too prevalent, too widespread, and it's just still quite a harmful thing, but they rigged all the things, so I sort of bumped into people that were sort of have been manipulated into it. And I think again, the reason it was done is probably to sort of get to the root cause of it, so it's eliminated. But it could also be the thing that part of the prank is that you're just making sort of me believe to that it is extremely widespread, and it's sort of not that dangerous that it is in the world. It's just something that they rigged, and it's that therefore just like sort of prank on it. But since it's been ongoing for 3 years now, so it's about time that I sort of try to get to the bottom of this, just understanding what it's like, what it's all about. Since I don't have any direct contact with those who rigged this, and they don't deserve me to reach out to them, them then. So it's like, yeah, we'll see what they'll do. But I think it's, as I said, it's better to speak about stuff than just putting a lid on it. It's I mean, some things, perhaps some type of conversations, I guess, put a lid on it can be a good thing to some extent. And also one of the reasons I think it's sort of, I see myself as someone who's sort of reasonably, come off as reasonably reasonable. I mean, not really too weird. Well, I am quite different, but I'm not insane. But yeah, I am not insane. So I think I come off as someone who's a bit odd and sort of, well, what's that guy? And that's probably a risk in being trusted in this, and that's also part of the prank. I mean, if you have someone who's a bit odd and is put in a situation that, so it's really, people will think it's extremely and say, oh, that's why he's like that. He's like that. If he's a bit different, and I do actually classify myself as somewhat different. People can be that in different ways, and I happen to be that in some ways. And I think it can be bad parts with that, but I usually think it's. I think I or everyone has an obligation to try to be different in a positive way. I mean, I'm not only. I mean, or you can turn around and say, if you really do something very good in society, you have to be a bit different from what's average. I mean, Nelson Mandela, Martin Luther King, or some scientists, and so. I mean, they differ a lot from average, so we have a responsibility to try to be that, if you ask me. Yeah, perhaps you won't succeed, and you can also bet on just being a constructive contributor to the economy. But yeah, I have more of that in another discussion. But so I can't say I even betted at one point in my life that in sort of what's it called? road, shows some roads. What's the word? Where he shows right or left. I lost the English word for that. I sort of bet it on that I have sort of potential to at least to some extent something different that is very good. But it's really hard to know your capacity. You can just have a grand vision, believe it that you can make it that extreme grandeur a reality, and just be humble about that. It might just work out to that extent. I mean, you need to have a part in your brain that's unforgiving and that you'll accomplish it no matter what. But to still be realistic, you also have to realize that the realistic is that it's going to happen, because that's how you have to think about it, and that is the realist. But it's again sort of a self-fulfilling prophecy. But you also have the humility to sort of do what it takes to get there. And so, yeah. Anyway, so that's and so I guess I made a bet that is congruent with this, because why would I otherwise be affected of it? And but perhaps many people are. I don't know. I've never heard anything about it. What I do know, though, is that I've seen people, and this is really, really, really sad. I see people who walk around and, well, it sounds insane again, but I don't think that it is what it is. That sort of is in this sort of game that's not connected. And this was actually a struggle in the beginning, because I couldn't sort out what persons are just sort of people that stuck in this letters game trying to decode letters, and those who actually sort of involved in this as people who are sort of either paid or involved to sort of send sort of signals in society. Just, I mean, some things are too weird to. One way to decipher this is to make it sure it's true. I mean, you must have a gist for. Have a sense for what's it called? Sannolikheter, not opportunities, probabilities. I mean, how probable is it? You have to understand when something is happening. Is this just a coincidence, or is it actually? Is it actually not too extreme to be a coincidence? And there's so many things that's been made, and for sure I've noticed that I thought been sort of not coincident, because strange things do happen. I mean, that's why part of the reason, if perhaps that some people think about miracles as miracles, one day perhaps not. I mean, I don't say there are not miracles. I don't know. But that's not part of this discussion. I just think about this, yeah. And so at one point, when this was in the beginning, I really was sort of, am I being sort of just, is this just a fantasy that I'm just sort of, people are doing this? And I remember I sort of made a check question, because they know that I'm smart, so they know that I'm going to need a verification in order to, and I'm actually quite glad I got it. Which is basically something that was quite unlikely to say. I mean, I need something that's sort of super strong, so I understand that this is not like. And then I got sort of something that happened. Oh well, and I said, well, so I pushed it further. Said, well, the human brain can actually find evidence that's really. What's the argument? That you seek validation for what you want to believe in, basically. So I said, okay, that was quite remarkable. I said, okay, but to really, really know that it's not, I mean, it could have happened, even if it's very not like remarkable. Just do it one more time. And then it happened again. After quite directly after I asked for it. And then I was like, and then I just waited to see if that could happen again. And it was not connected, like these two events was not connected at all. Can't say they were connected. And I went again to see, well, why would that happen? I waited for a while, and it's not an obvious thing, but that it happened in connection to what I asked, which was connected to something at that particular time. But that was not, it could not have been anything that happened. It had to be something that was connected to this. And it happened again, and I sort of waited for a long time, and but well, this, yeah, it could happen, but it's really quite a rare event to happen. I mean, it can happen at any time, but that it happened exactly when I asked for it, and it was connected to something that, and it happened two times. And I just waited to see if it would happen again without me asking for it, and it did not. So that's sort of the introduction of this, and this is almost three years ago. And yeah. Since that, this mega prank has been ongoing, and that's yeah. I can't emphasize enough how and by the way, a bet on this. I know myself to be quite intelligent in some ways. It's actually hard to know exactly how intelligent you are, but there are indications in different places and stuff. And I would say this sort of way to provoke those who might be sort of, you're probably just making this up in your mind, is to say that if you're not connecting the dots, understanding what I'm saying here, if you're not understand the general argument, you're probably influenced by your instinct to just think that this is too weird to be truth, rather than following the rationale of my argumentation. So it's actually a disqualifier of your intelligence, even though I can have some sympathy for that. It's hard to believe. So that's me pushing back on those who would have that. But yeah, so do not expect someone to believe it just right out of the way like that, but at least to just go to the conclusion too fast. I mean, I've had a long time to contemplate this. So if someone who just heard it for the first time, it's the most sound, and that's the most important lesson in sort of psychology and in just being smart, is to be able to criticize your own thoughts. And yeah, why you're not doing this? Well, yeah, I've been doing this for a long time, and it's your responsibility, if you care about this anyway, to not jump to a conclusion too fast. So you have an instinctual reaction that is, well, that can't be true, or actually also believing just right away. Perhaps it's sound to just admit that you don't know, because that's the most important step in really scrutinizing and not believing in something that's false. It's be able to scrutinize and question things, and so the most intelligent person is probably someone who says, well, I can't know, I can have a guess, but I don't know. And hopefully the smarter you are, and the more you look in my argumentation on this, the more you realize that is true. So yeah, there's some part of it, so many things I have not discussed about this, and it's connected to this sort of, it was introduced in my life at the same time. It's actually introduced by this sort of letter word stuff, because it's not something I'm not ashamed of not being introduced to it earlier, because I think some people go around and think of it as a mystery thing. Oh, some people don't know about this, but we're cool. We know about this. I think some people go around their life like that, and that's probably even more of a thing that makes it a virus that really breaks your mind down. Is because you have a certain pride in it. But I not, at least I can't remember having sort of not more sort of. There's so much mysticism and depth in life without that. So it's, but it goes. I mean, it's not two different realms. It goes into it also, into other types of mysteries and depth of human life and character and associations in head and so forth. So, but yeah, this was introduced for me at the same time. Basically, it was not. Let's see. It was not. Yeah, the prank began first, and then it became sort of the slowly but surely, quite early on, in a matter of week or in a matter of, yeah, it depends on when you mean the prank really began, but in weeks, sort of weeks or a month or two, definitely it had began with these sort of this sort of this sort of yeah, whatever. Lost my train of thought. I think an indication of how how the extent of this is and how much influence it is to. I mean, you could say it's an coincidence, and yeah, it could be. I mean, but I wouldn't. Unless it was for all these other things that I've sort of experienced, it's too many coincidences that it started to be, and just letting you get a sort of understanding of how large this really is and how much resources there is into this. Is that where I live, I don't know if the person who sold this apartment that I bought was sort of in this. I don't think. I sort of think it's rather sort of moved away from. They sort of manipulated him to. And you can, why am I involved with something that's just a lot of manipulation? I think it's a purpose to. I mean, and this is what the way I wanted to get it is because it's rigged by someone who's really into psychology and not manipulation, but understanding how people can influence and so forth. And I mean, in marketing, it's basically about evoking as much emotions as possible. And but I prefer the positive one, so I don't know why we're going to indulge in sort of manipulating things in some bad way. But this is basically about creating a big fucking story. This is about making something enormous. I think I can't see any other reason for it, which is extremely thrilling. But it also, like, since I'm so alone in this, and people will think I'm stupid and insane. It's like, yeah, whatever. Treat your own insanities if you think I'm insane. And you have to believe that it can be big things can be done in life, and hopefully not for bad, but because I mean there are many things. Most of this is just like crap, bad things, extremely bad things. So either it's really bad people behind it that I don't know about, or I misjudge the character of those who do it, or it's done sort of as a bridge to something that can be used in a constructive way. Because I don't buy the trauma part completely. I mean, I don't feel as traumatized as I should be, and it should be probably be. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's more of a used to. But I mean, I don't like the end justifies the means argumentation. I don't think you can just sort of do anything to just. I mean, you can have an ethics on. By the way, all those who are involved, I feel sorry for. They're just working around and sort of trying to It's the only thing I really think about is as the Milgram's experiments, which is a real sad thing. How to, if you know about it, it's basically that you sort of push for something and you get involved in it, and you either you don't know the pain you inflict on people, or you sort of, in the Milgram experiment, you actually know that you tricked you. The experimenter said that the experiment requires that you continue, and they just push on that, and some people just continue forever, and they sort of nervously get to laugh, and when it's actually sort of inflicting pain, people sort of screaming, but it's just sort of recording, but they think that's the Milgram experiment. Look it up if you haven't seen about it. It's really insane how evil the human brain can be if it's an experiment to say that there's an experiment that you have to continue doing it. That's how I think about these people involved in, or they getting paid for it in a way that's congruent with incentive. They shows the inferior part of getting paid for something that's extremely bad. And so I think it's basically a prank on them. They don't know how much bad things they're doing, how much they're inflicting pain on me and other, perhaps if it's more people, I don't know. Or they might even think they're doing good things, I don't know. Yeah, going back to, lost my train of thought there again. And yeah, so the other thing, that's how big this is, and blah blah, you have to believe there can be big things to be done in life by other people as well. And the ethical part of it is probably that it has to be a good story. One indication also of the sort of extent of it is that the person moving away from the apartment I bought, and it just happened to be a ad that came up, and I just happened to have the drive to buy this apartment. I mean, just this thing, this part could just be any coincidence, but it's quite fitting that I'm recording this video, and just happens to be the case that the bostadsrättsförening of the apartment complex, there's not a perfect equivalence of this in other countries, but so I don't think it's a perfect translation. I don't know the translation for the similar thing in other countries, but sort of apartment cooperations, let's say, which happen to be very close to a hospital, and a hospital very close is not really far away, and so for that reason the apartment complex is called basically the hospital number 3, but in Swedish, so and that's quite fitting for me, talking about something that seems that he's probably just imagining things and stuff. And I like, for example, I have to, as I said, an indication of why I'm not mad. I mean, that if that had happened, if that were the only thing, I would be like, yeah. So that was a funny coincidence, but it was not an indication of there's some outstanding force that made this happen. But yes, since they're very influential and know how to, I think they could manipulate me to buy this exact apartment, and it's actually in line with some other factors. Just the name of this is sort of in line with something that's happened in well, actually a person. And that's also sort of an coincidence that you could think of. But when these start to add up, it takes most people, and I don't know if it requires my intelligence to decipher it, and it's possible perhaps me just talking about it to know this is going on for a long time. But at some level, you have to be able to scrutinize, is this coincidence or not? I mean, there are many, many coincidences. But when is it too much? There is a time when there is too much for not being a coincidence. And so, yeah. And yeah. And there's another take on this that I don't think it's more common for schizophrenia in intelligent people, but I think that's actually true that it is, and that's, I guess, I just part of the prank for me to perhaps be afraid of, oh well, am I just imagining this? But since I guess I had quite confidence in my ability to discern things, I by just rational analysis understand that no, I'm not. But it makes it even more funny, I would say, actually, because somewhat watching my quiz be saying this, have more difficulty to believe in it. I don't know for sure that it is so that more intelligent people are more prone to sort of schizophrenic or just imagining things that doesn't exist, but if that's the case, then it's a bit more of the prank, because even more people will think, well, it's just imagining things. So that's, yeah, I'll just get a thrug if that's happened. I can't. It's basically their loss. I mean, everything that has with reality to do, if you don't convince someone about reality, like for example a customer, about if you have something that's valuable and you have the truth is that it is really valuable for, and they would help them, yeah, it damages yourself if you can't persuade them, but it damages them even more that they could not be persuaded, that they did not let them be persuaded about something that's good for them. You can move on to the next customer, persuade them, and you can't spend unlimited time on sort of judging, trying to persuade someone who doesn't want to believe and understand and can't understand. So you just move to another person who actually believes in it, and maybe sort of, yes, I guess this is sort of a reach out to someone who sort of have seen something similar, or sort of get involved in it, or is on the other side of being lured into being part of this, or the other side of this sort of middle ground thing, and think they're doing something good perhaps, and think they're doing something, yeah. I guess in just the big gist of it is that it is perhaps not something good, but there is still like you're fooled. Those people are fooled to think either it's sort of super nice to people, which is like, okay, happy to see that you're so inferior, but they can also be sort of lured into it, and therefore, I mean, if some of those people are around there, and it's difficult if they're more manipulative, because they were dare to do it. Maybe they've been bullied when they were small, so they sort of don't trust people and therefore won't reach out. But this is sort of general sort of throwing it out there, reach out if someone has seen something that's a bit different, a bit odd, or being even lured to think that they do something good when they're not. So that could be sort of the one lesson of this sort of huge mega initiative, that it's possible to lure people to do some things that they perhaps even think is good, and it's just extreme amounts of pain that you inflicting on me and others. Although I like to say, I like to receive pain with a smile. But yes, it's involves things that I would. The instinct is to kill the person, but I haven't sort of met someone directly that. I'm not naturally someone who reaches out or something, but it's always this: is that person really? I'm not the person that reaches out to people at all. So when I meet someone in public, especially when it's sort of this that you can't be completely sure, is going up and just checking it. Was that you? That you really, and you don't even know if you're gonna get another honest answer. And so it's like, yeah, nasty time waste. And I think that's the reason. But some people indulge, sort of practice these type of signals and stuff. And I think it's an attempt to just get rid of all this type of behavior, because again, it's like the letter thing. It starts to create insecurities in your mind, and manipulative behavior is something that can actually be shamed. And that's why it's so important to get rid of this mind virus from people's brain. That so you sort of understand that keep walking around and giving these signals, I think it's for a good thing. I mean, personally, when it comes to this thing, I do not do it more than earlier, meaning I generally don't do it that much at all. I mean, leather things, if I remember correctly, is quite new for me, but the sort of the general given sort of a hint. I mean, it could be done maybe in certain circumstances for, yeah, you know what I mean. But to this extent, and sort of being involved, it's just a big sort of Machiavellian Milgram experience. Yeah, I guess that's what it is. A Milgram experiment thing. And by the way, I also think there's a lot of science behind it. I mean, you need to, if I remember correctly, one of those people behind this, that they sort of they suspect is behind this. I've heard him say that it's hard to get to improve these sort of sciences because it's not ethical to do anything in this sphere. And he seemed to reason like the end justifies the means, sort of like the classical communist motto, and applied that to science for some reason that is beyond ethical, and for unethical behavior that's good in the long term, sort of. And I already had that argument that there's sort of a limit to science, but yeah, so science, I think there's science going on, but there's so many things that I haven't talked about that will seem even more sick, so I can't really go into it, because it would lessen my it would be even harder to persuade people about that would be true. But yeah, it's not, I mean, it took 5 years, no, 7 more years, and one other indication that this is actually happening, which I realized afterhand, that okay, well, that's exactly on spot. It is, I'm not imagining this is just something, it's actually something that was initiated. It was a program that was called 67 Steps, and that was this first thing I introduced to this American guy, and I had actually forgotten that evidence that I had in my brain. It's just something I forgotten, and I started to understand that it is not something I just imagined, but it's 67 Steps, and this prank, the first thing that happened in Mars for, I think, almost 3 years ago now, quite exactly. That happened when this, I mean, and it was quite clear that it happened at an instant. It went from like, I was living my life, doing my thing, and then suddenly, bam, a mega sort of prank, and on me and some other people that still are sort of involved in this, but in a way that I don't understand. And that happened super clear on the, you know, like it was just, it was sort of an ongoing thing that developed over a month or two, but it's like the first indication that something happened. That happened exactly 67 months after I first subscribed to that program. So the program was called 67 Steps, which is basically a program for 67 days. And it took 67 months. I'm how to sort of zoomed out from this guy and doing other stuff. 65, if you think about it, that's years. It's not 6 years, it's 5 years basically, I guess, something around that. And that's, yeah. And so that's when this started. You could say, okay, well, yeah, it would, by the way, this would be interesting. It would be really fun if, when it's 100, I have to think about this. Let's see. Maybe this is now. Yeah, I don't care if this seems insane. It's actually interesting to think about. When it's 100, maybe something will happen then. Let's see. Now it is 12:24. Whoa, this is quite close. 12:24:36. Not really 36, it's 35 now. And 35 now is already past. 60, 90. Do I count correct there? 22. Yeah, 12, 24, 35. Yeah, no, it's actually more than 100. It was 100 2 months ago, and that's probably, I mean, the argument of that is that it would come to a close at 100 perhaps, and this is a good way of sort of, this is how extremely thoughtful this is, because I think, to be honest, that means I have been sort of manipulated to do this video, or to talk about it. I'm not sure if that's the case, maybe it's not, but there are many things that we realize they're sort of in being sort of a distance to it, doing things that would facilitate, at least. I mean, they're probably failing a lot, but some things are like if they push on that a lot, you're going in that direction, sort of, and some are succeeds and some don't, and I think, well, perhaps that, and I thought that where perhaps I'm sort of manipulated to do this video exactly at this time, but maybe I am, and it's sort of a prank in itself to make me fail doing a live deduction of what could it really be a coincidence that it's 100 and I failed and it was not 100. Yeah, it's a way for them to make it even harder for me to be believed, perhaps, because this is the thing. I mean, it's hard to believe, and I'm not told that many people, and very few, and it's sort of a, yeah, mild answer to it. Yeah, the discussion goes on, life goes on, and most people who are not as involved in this as me is, but yeah, that's, I've actually mentioned this in previous videos. It's just that I just recently started to post. I mean, I've done videos on this, on other things, just pure knowledge in general, science and history and anything, since 7 years ago, actually. No, more. It's more than 7 years ago. No, it's 7 years ago, or something like that. And actually, quite recent, I think it's a year ago or a little more, I actually mentioned this, but then I was just doing it for myself. Well, actually, from advice from the same person, but not directly to me necessarily. It's watch a video that is good practice for public speaking, to record yourself speaking in a video and put it up on YouTube. And if you're not comfortable you doing that, just put it up, but check it in private. It's a private video, and that's what I did for a long time until just, I think was yesterday I started. No, I did some videos like so short term on X too, but now it's both on YouTube and X. But so there are sort of 250 or 350 videos, not all of them memorized, but YouTube, and so there I discussed it, but not on X. There I just began there, and just some short videos, but yeah, I don't remember really what I talked about there, but it was easier there because then I was not putting it online, so it's, yeah, whatever. And yeah, my brain just goes back to it again and again and again, that is, if someone watches this will think that I'm totally making up everything in my mind, and yeah, uh, I guess that is what it is. It's like, it's almost like being in sales. It's part of the thing that people won't believe you that this is true when you say we could help you with this. It's the same thing. You just have to move on, and you have to accept that some people are not as intelligent in seeing how one, genuine someone is in their communication, and two, how intelligent they are in their reasoning and giving good evidence for it. So yeah, so that's that, I guess. 1.5 hours, that's longer than yesterday. I start to get a little darker. Yeah, I don't know. What an embarrassment to post something like this on the day of love. But yeah, whatever. There are many things that you can regret doing in life, and there are also many things that you can regret that you don't do so. And it's a very hard time to believe that I will regret posting this, but well, maybe there's some side consequence, but never mind. And yeah, one could have hoped that this would be very nice to get off my heart, so to speak, to speak the reality out of it, but I'm posting about it. But I have touched on the subject earlier, and I don't know if that helps. And maybe I should go into one part of this, that's because I don't know this person personally, but there's one person that I indirectly got involved in this when this started out. It was actually the first. It was sort of the initiation of the prank. Was that person sort of bumped into my life, but in just on the internet. And so that was happened exactly 67 months after I started this 67 course, meaning again 5 years after, basically not exactly, but with exactly 67 months after. And that's yeah, say what you will, but that can't be in Queens. Even if it's like I didn't think about it, that I needed help to understand that was the person who was behind it. And it sort of took a while. That was just some months. I thought it was a criminal thing first. And then I realized, okay. But then afterwards I realized, I think maybe half a year later, I don't remember, or an extra month, I remember. But that was afterwards I sort of tried to decipher, like, well, wait, it's actually exactly the guy doing the program that I went into. Okay, now I've seen that guy. I was sort of get an indication. I enrolled exactly 67 months before this prank started in that program. That can't be a coincidence. So, yeah, that's quite a solid evidence. And I said that to the person that I got involved in that. I said it's probably involved in this way that I don't understand. Sort of some communication with, but that person still thinks don't know if I'm, either that person is very manipulative or that person is a normal person. I don't think why there's a reason to involve someone with something if that person is not like sort of extreme in some way. So either extreme and manipulative in some way, we need to adjust the behavior of, or someone that's remarkably good in some way and for some reason. I mean, you could see like why am I affected by all this? Is because it's a punishment. That was sort of something that I was, but I think of myself as someone who wants to do as much good as possible. So I don't think, but and then also it's like, shouldn't it be the same thing for that person? could it be that they're using me to sort of an instrument, because they made me do some really extreme things, and I am usually a person who's very, very careful. I'm really sort of full going introspection thinking. I can have some really strong actions sometimes, but action is not my primary skill necessarily, not yet. Or I can, if I under the right circumstances, I'm extremely result oriented. So just performance is my big thing, really high level performance. So for that reason, I can act under those circumstances. And that was basically the initiation of this prank, and they made me do something that was really, really extreme. They basically made me into doing this. And since this person is sort of a marketing guy who really knows persuasion and how the human brain works, some psychology and etc. I think the science is behind this as well. And many rich people in the US investing in this for some odd reason. It's quite realistic to think that they can manipulate me if there's so many people to do something like that, because it's extreme. Yeah, I have some extreme behaviors in the sense of sort of really doing the extreme that's necessary for something to be good or something to happen. But I usually is very reserved in my actions in terms of, and it really was about thinking and learning, and then I take an action. But they made me do something that's not, I would not say, like, I say that there was some really horrible things that were done to me. I would not say I did that to someone else. It would actually act of a good intention, but I realized it was either perceived as extremely sort of frightening and or perceived as something that person, if that person is deceptive, can use and get, let's say, addicted to abuse. And yeah, that's one way of putting it. So yeah, that's that. I don't know how to put it in other terms or how to explain it. But yeah, let's see here. I've been talking for a while now. And this, as I said in some videos, this is far from record. I'm just halfway through the marathon here. I've done 3 hours on these talks. Is it weird? I mean, it's a good thing to talk. It's good to practice public speaking, so to speak. Funny, right? But yeah, it is something that's really good and fruitful to do. So yeah. Yeah, my brain is still stuck at that. They want to believe that it is 100 months since, but it's not. Would have to be 33. 33 from Mars in 22, and it's not. 24, 36. 3 months before Mars. It's now in December, I guess. Yeah. It's actually something connected to this that happens in December, that sort of, yeah, whatever. Not just this December, but sort of in general, but some event or something that happens that's connected to this. But yeah, anyway, that's not the main thing here. And yeah, it's for sure challenging to to be involved in this, and at the same time, probably, I don't know, when I'm talking about it, it's met with skepticism. That's why I don't talk about it, because it's like, who the heck would believe me? And I tried to some extent, but yeah. Speaking to deaf ears is actually one. So that's the Swedish expression. I've never heard someone say that in another language, but yeah. But yeah, if someone has seen something, or it's just reach out, because this is weird, really fucking weird. And maybe as a test of my that was actually the response I got from a friend when we were deeply drunk, the both of us. I was actually sitting here at this place, and he was here at my place, and he was like, "Hey, man, you need to speak about this, these type of things." And we never talked about it later on, but we have met since and talked about it. And maybe that's my thing that I'm not good at. Live my own world and talk about stuff like these videos. But that's also, by the way, another thing I just talk about was hard to get an impression of from people about people, who they are and stuff like that. And like, for example, this guy in the US, or take any person, famous person, the only thing you see is what's on the internet, and or like, yeah, for sure, famous people are quite exposed, but you don't have a clue in the same way that you can't evaluate how trustworthy or good they are as a person. Just, it's hard to do that without knowing, and that's science on that. You need one year to know someone personally in order to decipher, to know if that person is reliable and someone who's you can trust. In the same way, it's sort of on the same sort of spectrum on this, that yeah, I think you can make evaluation if you get a lot of time. You can sort of find out sort of what's the thing. By the way, why I don't went to the police with this is that, well, first of all, it started as a criminal thing, and I thought I don't have any evidence of it. And then when I figured out it wasn't, or well, it is criminal, so to speak, but done for a good purpose, I think. So it's non-ethical oriented people, you could say. Even just it's I would say it's lacking morals too, but doing something unethical to make an ethical point, or sort of make something good out of it. But just to sort of give an indication, yeah, because I do understand that to some extent it can seem a bit, I don't know, I think of myself as, I'm quite proud doing all these videos for 7 years, putting it out on YouTube, and just even without people seeing it, because it's good practice. I think it's one of the best things I've done in life. It really made me remember tons of stuff, and just yeah, ingrained knowledge in my head, and so. But I don't know. Perhaps it perceives as a bit, speaking of being sort of extreme or different. Some different is not good different. It's sort of weird or odd. But I mean, I'm not the only one posting tons of things. So YouTube is just that I did it privately, and doing a long discussion with myself. And yeah, thought flew through my mind that it's probably not. I don't know. It's not that weird, but it's very solitary thing. But well, that's not my biggest sort of thing on this. Is basically more on the theme of how you can sort of understand someone by just sort of watching video or getting an impression of that person. I mean, if you don't know them well, and if you sort of like, what I mean by it is that sort of famous people that you see on. This is, by the way, connection to this thing on this person that I get involved with here in Sweden, Stockholm. That's, well, actually lived very close, sort of close to that person, and I as a person have a difficulty. I really don't know if that's some trustworthy or good person. I could sort of, there's some things on the internet you can sort of get the gist of something and stuff, and then it depends on how much people put out there on the internet. You know, how on the internet. What's my pronunciation is going nuts. But yeah, so I think, for example, that yeah, you can. I mean, yeah, you. Speaking about something that's talked about in an earlier video about it takes a year, know someone in private to know how much how they're on the humility spectrum, how honest and how how likely they are to deceive people and stuff, and that you need 1 year private to understand that. And that sort of thinking, I start to get tired now. Now I completely lost it. I'm tired now. Coffee is going out of my system slowly but surely. As I said, I did not sleep very well tonight, so it starts to affect me. But no, it's completely lost. But where I was talking about this about, let's see. The other person, and it's hard to sort of know what this is going. No, I completely lost it. Memory is not the best thing. Sleep deprivation is not the best thing for memory as well. So, and something else. Now I get really irritated. What the heck was I? It was something about that other person and the extent of all this weirdness, and but I completely lost it. What's that called in English? Arbetsminne, my short-term memory or whatever is blanked. But I guess it's yeah, I know. I remember all about all these sort of. It's hard to get an impression of someone who's if you don't really know them. So, speaking of sort of impression, I think you can get sort of a good impression anyway, sort of, if you sort of, for example, listen to someone with a lot of videos and stuff. I mean, I think you can. I want to believe I can sort of know if that's a good or bad person, essentially. But I guess we all can get fooled. And the better you are at reading people, not saying intelligent, because it depends on what type of, I guess it correlates quite strongly, intelligence and the ability to read people, but perhaps not completely. It depends on what type of intelligence, and that's perhaps an intelligence in itself, reading people. So yeah. But I think you can sort of make it. You always you make a bet. You don't know for sure, but you get the sort of feeling. Oh, well, that person is probably reliable. It seems like, why would he or she not be? But it depends on how material you have on trying to understand that person. So and that's quite that's quite I think important to know about that. You speaking of sort of politics, people you vote at, how yeah, speaking about that, how I mean it's such if you're among those, I don't want to put myself on a sort of a pedestal or something like that, but if you're among those sort of parts of society that can sort of see the madness of crowds, so to speak, you see how politics is ruin people's brains, and how what how what the level of argumentation in politics sometimes. I mean, you'd have to play the game if you're in politics. You know, you need to say what's sort of necessary, not say that it's ethically justified to say anything. But I mean, you to make the rational argument, even though you can do that sort of to an extent. I mean, the level of argumentation in politics. Now I'm speaking mostly about Sweden, but I guess it's true anywhere. Really, I mean, to persuade the masses, you need to make arguments that's basically asinine reasoning skills for someone who's reasonably intelligent. As their perception of it is like it's such and it's so sad how people can be lured so easily into believing stuff. And when it's for the good of when it's a good thing, then it's like, well, yeah. And sometimes it's actually a good argument can be like easy to understand. So that's part of the trick, I guess, good politics. But I mean, so many people think some people are good, and they're basically just being extremely fooled and think that's good, a good person, that good politician, or a good whatever it is. And for me, it's at least obvious that they're quite wrong about that. But it could also be good. It's actually quite hard to know for sure. You, not saying that I'm super intelligent, it's actually again hard to know how intelligent you are. But to yeah, it's quite challenging for anyone, I guess, to read someone perfectly. And so, speaking about these videos, I think, like for example, someone who we're watching, like for example, evaluating my honesty or humility. The signs on it would be that you probably can get GG started, but you were also quite probably on being wrong. So the only ways to sort of know me, and that sort of applied to yes, the thought that popped up in my mind was that like how this will be perceived as he's posting tons of videos, but I mean that's what most people do. Is that my way of doing is very solitary, sort of solitary mode. Me just yeah, whatever. At least those on YouTube. On X, I can't post 350 videos at once. It takes extremely long time to post videos actually from your phone to even YouTube. I guess it depends on what you pay for in terms of internet and stuff, uploading frequency, or yeah, I don't know. Anyway, so yeah, that was something that I was talking about that yeah, I don't know. I will skip that. I don't know if I should push how long I should push this, but and like for example, I don't even know if that person. Yeah, that's an interesting take, and it's I don't see any bad reason for not bringing it up, but most of this, like this ongoing, this person that sort of get involved with together with me in this in a way that's at least I don't know how prevalent that involvement is for that person right now because I can't decipher sort of if that person they, for example, rigging these American guys, and maybe they're involved Swedish guys, I don't know, but from a distance, sort of by the internet and doing stuff with yeah, they're basically deep in my phone and doing stuff, and also around in the real world. Now I lost my train of thought. Yeah, really tired now. They want, yeah, so talking about sort of manipulation and what you're sort of indicating, because this is sort of a game on just sort of, yeah, so this, by the way, this letter communication, which makes it so, I mean, it's, for me, I don't want to do it, and that, but it's so easy for me to get stuck in because it's so big in amplitude, and that's why I also sort of humble off that. Well, maybe not people are that deep into it, or they are, and the only way to get me deep into it, because I know how bad it is. So I immediately when it started, I was like, this is so bad things to get stuck in. This is, but since I did not get, I tried to reach out to those who did this, I didn't really get a response, and so that made it, I can't, I mean, I can, it's so extreme, so I can't ignore it. So it's like, and it's quite irritating to see things. I can just shut it off if I want to, but just seeing someone sort of doing stuff, that sort of thing, well, it's like, what? But they basically try to make me believe that I should do something and involve in all this with this person, like it's, and for me it's hard, because it's, that person probably believes I'm insane or criminal, at least believed in the beginning, or just weird, and that, yeah, for me it's like, yeah, I can move on, but it's the trick with it is that I'm continually persuaded to still focus on that person, and which is not necessarily a problem for me, except that I don't know how to go about it, because it's like, I can't just force myself into basically that person becoming really afraid. So which, well, like the same thing that I was exposed to. I was basically death threatened in the beginning of this, and this is not the most nasty part. Just to be, I mean, if it's quite a thing to do to someone, for sure. I mean, I think that I was living on a death threat, but I realized that no one would believe me, and I, although this was not actual, of course, but at the time I didn't know who was behind this. This was the first month, basically, or the second month, sort of. This happens a lot more than 3 years ago, or almost 3 years ago. I am. I'm really tired. But I just had to deal with it. It was basically, it was more challenging when I were afraid of my parents, I guess. But it was more like, yeah, they hinted at being sort of canon father, what you call it, canon father, canon something. And I realized the police wouldn't believe me. I didn't have perfect evidence, but I saved something on sort of I suspect that it might be in my computers actually, to a sort of a memory and out of it, so to be sure. But it was still too vague to sort of have a proof, and this is how all this is built up. That way, that's why it's hard to have concrete evidence of it. You just really have to be able to decipher probabilities, and that requires, I guess, intuition of intuitive intelligence of understanding probabilities, I guess. So and I didn't trust the police in that. I get so disappointed of many institutions when I've been in contact with them sometimes. So it's yeah, and so I was basically that. Well, that was challenging for sure. That was, but it was. That's easier to just afterwards just sort of forgive, because it's yeah, it's scary, but it was also like quite thrilling. It was like the fuck it. I don't care. I'll just um, I will just I'm actually I do think I have that part in me that I'm quite I mean I mean I'm sort of a thrill seeker in the sense of I don't act on my thrill seeking. I very seldom do, but I have a very strong of it. That's why I'm really only thing I want in an extreme. I get really get an extreme life for sure, but it's not in a good way. This, I mean, this is just weird. But long term, I sort of optimize for sort of different life because it's the only thing that can satisfy me. But where were I again? Yeah, so it's when you sort of get to the realize that yeah, I guess I just betted on that. It's too much trouble for me. They can gain if they were criminals. This is just recapping just for fun, I guess. If they if they if they can gain very much by threatening you to not go to the police because then it's a little risk. But you understand that there are more risk for them to actually take you out, to kill you in some way. So they won't, it's worse for them to kill you if you really have sort of can what's the word, go to the police and betray what they're all about, what they're doing. So that way they sort of have an incentive to take you out. But it's that not that's not at all make up for the risk of take someone out and just being maybe it does, I don't know, but it's really still sort of big of risk is taking one's life, and I can go there forever and just lock myself into I don't know, I don't think I did that too much, perhaps a couple of days. I had to, I mean, I have such a strong drive to just go for a walk. I can. This is when I just like continually studying and working, so I was just a lot of time on my own. So I just was like, fuck it, I'll walk out. Try to kill me if you want to. I do care, but it's like, yeah, bring it on. It was actually quite fun to just challenge that. And I thought if someone approach, I will just be like, fucking ge den en dansskalle eller något. I was stupid. It was kind of fun actually that part. But what's that called in English? That wasn't what I was thinking of. What's dansskalle in English? Basically crushing their nose and teeth by your forehead by banging your head in their face. I don't have headbutt. That's a word. Yeah, I have really sweet dreams about doing that. But fortunately or unfortunately, it wasn't real. It was just a play on me, and just um, I guess that shows how much of a sort of instincts that we have in ourselves. That's just raw, and I mean, we all have some part of us that not complete, but a part of a Nazi German laughing to at Auschwitz in us. I mean, there are so intense things in the human. There's so much brutality in humanity that I mean, just look at history. How much it's. And some people have it more than others for good or bad. And I say for good or bad because it's the only way to like survive if you're actually really threatened by something is to be able to defend yourself. Um, not does not have to be physically, but it can be like how you're because sort of confidence and ability to sort of not being affected by negative impulse is sort of translated in my mind at least to some sort of aggression that can be translated to physical violence, but it's not necessarily that in its form in the brain when it's only there and not being acted out. But I guess there's something there that's so it's yeah, it's like power in general. I mean, it can be for good or for bad, and it's like be able to defend yourself. You really have to be able to defend yourself. It's goes without saying that it's so. Well, of course, you want to believe, because probably perhaps even more when you're a man, to believe that you're really fucking good at defending yourself when it's needed. But I guess what just was that was just sort of a boosting confidence to challenge that threat of not sort of. And I actually did this. Well, I'm a bit astonished by myself, because this was basically about, and this is actually, well, maybe I'll do make the whole story. This is quite funny. It can take a while. But I said there were two things that indicated that I wanted validation for that this was not something that I had imagined. So after this had initiated, and it went a couple of weeks or a month or so, I think, that was quite, yeah, it was nothing bad at all. But then it switched complete, and I thought I understood that this was only rigged to give my attention, and they tried to recruit me. And since I understood my own value, I had always thought through that I know I'm quite competent. So they have an incentive to drive me into a criminal activity. Since I realized, so when it suddenly became sort of an, instead of this person sort of being someone, oh well, this would be fruitful juice for us to meet, to put it neutral. uh, it sort of went into bit more of a very, sorry, this was on the internet and deep, and so it was really hinted on some new type of, it was perhaps meat, but sort of, wait a minute, this is odd. And I didn't realize that this was not the same person anymore. This was rigged to manipulate me. But I sort of hadn't realized that, but that's what it was. So I am. So there was some types of thing, and I thought, wow, that's a bit more. Sort of get some bad feelings about it, but this was still some sequences of this was like, well, this is perhaps a sort of an odd person, but yeah, we'll see. And then when it was supposed to happen, it didn't worked out as I had understood it would, and then uh, it switched to being basically it switched to being basically a suggestion that seemed like, yeah, it was basically sort of you know what to do, and you realize the sort of what's not said but was said was, yeah, you know what to do, this is a good thing, come, yeah, it's a good thing, uh, be nice now, do this, and sort of subtle hinting at, well, you better do this because, and so that was interesting. And so 2 hours now. And at this point, yeah, and at this point I started to, even before, because I was quite aware of already this before it turned into a prank thing, or sorry, a criminal thing, that this person could be after me, be to sort of just since it was sort of an communication in the internet, in a sense that for me was, it had went over to something that was much more like odd, and that for me was very new and not really something that I would usually do, but it was focused on me and sort of so clear focus on me. I thought, well, once in a while you can do something like this, and but I have some, since it went into something that different, was which was sort of the same thing when that probably not was that person anymore. I have some type of skepticism if this was really a person that's reliable. Also, I mean, is not decideful and low on humility and just want to use you in some way. Um, like, yeah, I mean, there are many people today that can make a story about themselves by sort of exposing someone else's bad behavior when it's not. So like even criminal surgery when it's not. So I recorded lots of this stuff, the communication in pictures, and save them on something and put it away so that I have good evidence to that this has actually happened, and I good evidence for that person actually did this and this and this. So it was not only me that, in case someone would just sort of, I don't know, happen to my computer. I don't know exactly what I thought, but that was before the criminal activity. But I just and realized that this is a bit odd, and then I suddenly, when this started to be a threat, when the first threat thing come, that it was like, I'm just cannot follow in this, so you better. That was a big simultaneously when I was going on a walk, and I sort of I don't remember the exact, but I sort of suspected that they wanted me to throw these things that I put on a desk, eliminated, so I didn't have evidence. I just walked and saw sort of a trash can that was spread out on the floor, and I was like, well, that wasn't that just coincidence, but this was the walk I was always walking. I was always walking, so it's easy for them to see that I'm always walking there. And so it was a trash can that was just, but I don't remember if I had already then suspected that they wanted me to throw these images, or if I realized that were perhaps their wishes, because I was manipulated into this. Yeah. Anyway, so when then now it's when this validation that I did, that I talked about earlier, two events they asked for to give an indication that I was not just making this up in my mind. So I was like, say, okay, because they were basically, I mean, that's something you can do with criminal if you sort of listen to people's phones. And I thought, well, can you really hear what I say? And this is why I was hesitant to share this, because it's actually hard to believe in. But I think there is quite good evidence for that. You can listen to people's phones if you have the rights. It's illegal, but it's perhaps hard to prove, I guess. So I asked, okay, well, this is, I could just be imagining. Maybe I've just made up, fooled myself to believe that all this is happening. So I asked for them. Okay, I saw the trash can. This was Swedish, obviously. But I mean, can you give me an indication so I'm not just fooling myself to believe that this is happening? And then exactly when I said that, one person come with a dog and a bag of poo and throw it in a trash can. And I was like, okay, that was kind. Okay, no, I understand those trash cans that was sort of spread out earlier today. If that's a sequence, yeah, I guess that's a sequence. Yeah. It was quite sort of a signal. Was okay. Yeah, I'm probably not just making up my mind, or sort of making up my mind. I'm definitely doing these videos. In some way. And then it passed a while, and I said, well, the human brain has really weird ways of making you believe stuff that just probably you can't really know for sure. I mean, you really need good evidence. I really have to be really sure. And I waited for a while. When a common person throw this was outside my window in my apartment, throws out that with a dog threw the uh, bag with poo in the trash can and walked away. And I waited. I thought, well, maybe people often go. I don't usually see people go that often with a dog. It happens, but two in a row and all of them uh, throwing something in the trash can. So I waited for just being silent, and I just waited. Well, if there will be, I just missed that. It's very common that he just walked there, but nothing happened. I could have asked another time, but I guess I felt like, well, um, so, and this is interesting part. This I actually, speaking of how how much you believe in stuff. Um, um, no, it's not about how much you believe in stuff. Speaking about mm, I don't know where it was. Yeah, the pictures that I saved on a USB. I yeah, so they basically I tried to sort of I don't remember what the exact reason, but once well one contribute ever many reasons, but I sort of I wanted the we still wanted the evidence, and I am quite stubborn. I don't like people mess around with, and also I also yeah for first of all didn't think I have evidence enough to go to the police. They would just yeah, of course it would be a bit frightening. Maybe they're more incentive to take me out, but it was still like I didn't think I would be saved. Basically, best better just leave. So that would be an argument to eliminate the evidence. But I don't like to be sort of. So I think I had thought I would do it. I don't remember, but I think I thought maybe I'll do it later, or perhaps some hope of they would just be fine with me. They were just about to leave, and just wanted me to and if I don't, they would just stop. I wish that or something. But I also remember that I tried a little flattery. I said that because it was quite impressive how it was sort of synchronized and how like the extent of it. And now I understand how they could do that because now the investment behind it and stuff. But uh, yeah, so I sort of tested to flatter them, sort of, and I just get an sort of an I said that this is bad, but there's something. What I said was to be. I think there's a key towards to sort of changing bad people in a good way to sort of lift forward. But it's like with children. Like if they do something good, even if they do tons of bad things, it's even more potent to lift up the good things. So they do more of that and forget the bad things. Like that's with dogs. I actually some kind of sort of flatter them or give them a compliment on the you're actually doing some crazy. It's sort of how should you put it? It's very well synchronized, very sort of precise in sort of. It was just these things. There were other things as well. I mean, it took a long time for me sort of getting deep into this sort of communication, and then just yeah, many things. But and I remember the response was sort of totally something bad, not sort of reciprocative. And I remember my brain go just completely out of switch. I mean, no, not really. I'm exaggerating a bit, but I mean, perhaps it's not super respectful to say to for use, but I just mean I don't like being messed around with. So I mean, their chances of getting me to yeah kill me, but what's the saying? I may break, but I won't bend. Sort of that. I won't bend the knee. Well, might break. I mean, I was. For me, it was. So I don't remember exactly the continuation of that. I forget why I brought all this up. It was connection to sort of. But I guess I had a inner drive and letting off my heart, my troubles on this lovely day. But not to be sarcastic about, I guess, this coincidence that I talk about this in on this day. Maybe that's for sure not something that's how should you put it? That's that I've been sort of manipulated to do. But yeah, so but yeah, I still wish I could headbutt someone that. It would be some fun, but that would have limited the game and perhaps been a danger for them and me. So probably best that it didn't happen. But I mean, yeah. Oh, should I continue talking about it? This is not like in a conversation. Normal, when you have a conversation, you can read out the person the person actually believing me. So I mean, I could just. I mean, to continue more and more and more when someone stop believing, I just comes off as even more hard to trust. But yeah, maybe that's enough. There are more weird things, and yeah. Oh, sorry, definitely some things of this that I've not touched about at all, but that's not really connected to this. I mean, at least criminal thing that's obviously where I was afraid for my life and my parents' life, that's gone. But that was just a very short period. Well, it's happened some sort. I think they are using some type of previously criminal people to do some of this stuff. Some of these stuffs are really sort of nasty. Even though most of it is not sort of super criminal, it's definitely psychopathic tendencies of indulging in something, unless they're sort of manipulated to do the honest people that you're doing so for science. You do selling good-minded people to do things for science, and even though it's most ethical sound wouldn't accept it, but they do it on their own way because it's private initiative. They can do it, and it's not portrayed. It's just me talking about it now, finally. And so, and it's for the greater good, I guess. The reason and the good people doing those things that is going to afflict me, sort of, or trying to, as I used to say, throw on some more. They perhaps don't know what signal, what pre-knowledge I have, pre-perceptions I have. They perhaps not connected to the whole thing, so they don't know what they're inflicting on me. So that's not sort of the super like Milgram experience thing, because then you know that you're inflicting pain on someone. So you basically Milgram experience is people. You're making experiment on people putting on buttons that make other people scream, but it's only recorded screams. So, and an experimental leader just by bias 22 in Charles Monge's system authority, but just by authority from the experimental leaders say to the person that you're making the experiment on, but they think that they making the experiment on the person in pain, but there's no person in pain. He just recorded screams, and they can make this person ongoing higher and higher level of pain inflicting, and their voices and the screaming and the begging for mercy and not stopping. It's some people continue and start to laugh, even nervous laughter, and continue. And the experimental leaders, if they're if involved in the experiment, if they say, well, I can't continue to do this, if the experimental leaders say, well, the experiment requires that you continue, then some people actually obey that and still continue because it's for science, they think. So they continue to push in the buttons, and other people scream louder and louder and louder, and they beg for mercy to not be involved in this experiment anymore and stuff like that. But yes, it's only recording, so what you're testing is this people's willingness to inflict pain on others when an experiment an authority leader say you should, or when it says so. Yeah, that's the reasoning about that, behind that. And I think part of this is perhaps something like that. I don't know. But I guess there's so many inferior people involved either because they don't know about the middle experience, so they know that they're part of it, or they're tricked to do it, but they don't even know they inflict pain, or they just stay inferior because they are psychopaths and they don't care if they inflict pain on others. They'll take the consequence after this whole scenery is done. It's probably, if there are evil people involved in this, they probably don't know what the consequences are going to be like, and they probably tricked to believe that this is a good thing, and they're probably going to be punished like hell. But they don't know that because I mean, as I said, it's some serious stuff involved. I mean, life goes on, and you can handle a lot of things, and so for me, it's like, yeah, throw in some more. You can even say that to. It's cocky to say that when it's. I mean, to imagine the worst thing that can happen in your life. I mean, I can be sure for my parents' existence, but to live in a life and just be, oh, I'm afraid for that and that will happen. I mean, no, I don't believe in that. You can't like. I mean, if it's in a situation where you believe, really think there's a threat for you, you for sure might sort of bend to save those close to you. But in this stage of this, when I don't really have experienced something like for a very long time, something that's very drastic, it's even if it's evil, very evil people involved, they are probably not. They probably are sort of limited in what they can do. They probably sign a contract and get money or something like that. This is sort of the whole part of this social experiment to see where it goes. But so they get money for doing it, but they won't get the money if they go beyond it or do something really bad. That's sort of beyond what's in the contract or something. I don't know. And yeah. So let's see. I don't know. I don't have to. It's well far from personal best. As I said, I think I've done 3.5 hours. I think 4 hours. Sometimes the videos sort of get disrupted because I have some alarms that will probably happen. But um, I think I've done 4 hours on occasion. I've not for sure not done 5 hours. I know it can, maybe I've done on the same day sort of 5-6 hours, but I don't in the same sort of sequence or closely related sequence. I think it's sort of maximum 3.5-4 hours or something like that. So this is a bit for that is just 2.5 hours, but this is only ones that are sort of online when I'm recording them. But heck of time it takes to upload them on X and YouTube. That's sad, bad. It's not sad. It's just simply bad. I don't know. Yeah. So anything more? It's a bit cold actually. Yeah. So what more? Yeah, that's a really sad thing. You can't see how many some people watch on X. It would actually be interesting to know. Perhaps no one is, but at least people have the chance to. What more? Yeah, so it's actually at the stage of sort of the next sort of turn on this. uh, in sort of how should you put it? In Is again this person that is sort of initially what I was involved in sort of get back to, but now more directly from that person, indication of that. Well, maybe you were not a criminal, or you were not weird. Well, maybe there's some fruitful here to move on with, but sort of an insecurity with if I'm not, well, I'm not dangerous, perhaps, and so. So that's at that stage, and for me, it's hard to know how to handle that, because if you're someone that seems really sort of afraid, if they think of me as I thought about this thing that happened to me, I can sort of understand that they're sort of afraid of it too. But yeah. Yeah, so that's one interpretation. The other interpretation is that that person is just manipulative, and another one is they had no idea and they just are just manipulated to do stuff that for me is perceived for me as a sort of a signal, but is it's not. They're just living their life, but they're being manipulated to do certain things that for me is, when I perceive them, is basically not very low likelihood of that. Well, none basically. It's too out of the box to be just a coincidence. It's too sort of clear that that's sort of, yeah, that's meant for me to happen. And yeah, I know that sounds, but I laid out the sort of manner type of the evidence. So it's done for me, but it's not clear that it's that person alone who acts and tries to sort of get some signal that maybe initiate sort of understanding why, okay, who is it that really, or if it's that person is manipulated to do that, and therefore just to fool me to think that it's good again to take up that thread and go on with that. And there are many ways I could get at this to sort of understand, but I can sort of force myself on people. But yeah, maybe that's one version of what could be done about it. But just to see, but it really doesn't matter if that person avoids anyway. So yeah, there are many ways to go at it, but yeah, unlimited hope to that it was just sort out itself and get somewhere. I don't know. No, I don't have. I'm just plugging along with my life as well, but I'm definitely wasting time. It's if it's not if it's not for something good, it's, yeah, I'm basically wasting time. But I'm quite sure it's for something good. Not necessarily that it's this person that I've not forgot, but in periods not thought about, and then it goes back and forth, and understand why will this be fruitful to have a continuation on. But so yeah, so that's that. But something more, can't remember, like cut and clear, like so when want to bring up something more, but it's 2.5 hours now, so that's quite a bit, and it definitely does not make it more um, likely the one would listen the whole through if it's so long. But anyway, well, it's so long, so it's is probably too long for anyone anyway. So but yeah, one wish for any sound person out there who's I would actually appreciate if some reach out, so sort of just indication. I don't like subtle hints, but yeah, like would suffice to like you just indicate that yeah, you've heard me, and you don't asking for likes. It's like, well, that's what people do on YouTube. Um, but I guess it doesn't hurt if someone have watched and just indication that I've heard you. Doesn't have to mean that you trust me, even believe what I say, and or if you believe parts of it, or you think I'm perhaps exaggerating. It's not that big, but yeah. Sorry to break it for, but it is big. But it would be since this is sort of I won't say torturing me because that's sort of a victim mentality, but it's trying to torture me. I think that's a constructive way, by the way, to end amounts of pain. To say, I mean, if someone is trying to chop off your arm very slowly, you not saying that you can do it. I mean, we can all have a fantasies about how heroic and yeah, great we are, but just laugh at it and say, yeah, take the other one. It's usually the approach that uh, is the best way to get through pain. If you're not complete control of the action that inflicts the pain, but you're in control of the how you perceive it, then that's usually the best approach. Now I lost my train of thought again, but yeah, so some indication that yeah, you heard me. That sounds insane or true or interesting or whatever. That would be highly appreciated, but because I'm not stuck in this because that's also a victim mentality. But I guess I'm at the stage that I want to get off from because there's some things happening, but it's sort of a slow, real slow, boring play. Initially, it happened a lot of things. First, something that was quite good, and then suddenly turning into something that was uh, super bad as perceived, like, and then was something and then turned it back, and there were some experiences, and then that's where something I do to massive action because I don't usually do, but I just yeah. And then were some things they realized that they had done to me that was like yeah, beyond what you can digest if I would mention in this video. And but after that, it was just yeah, a lot of things happened. It's sort of less just just a shrug in. That's how I deal. Most people think, "Whoa, that's insane, extreme, perhaps." But I mean, the way to deal with it is just to I mean, to walk around to be embarrassed about destructive, manipulative, and psychopathic behavior. I mean, the best way to react to it is to with a shrug because it just shows them how inferior their behavior is to just indulge in this to do these type of things. So it's like, talk to me if you want something. Don't, yeah, don't. Yeah, it's weird. So yeah, but again, I think yeah, good people can use signaling sort of, and especially when it's sensitive topics, and it's yeah, speaking about this in the beginning about men and female and stuff. I mean, that's room for you can be careful in your communication, and that's me just understand that I, in my circumstances, where I am in my life right now, even if it's super duper mega thoughtful and sort of you couldn't understand how I could not understand that that's sort of a signal. It's like it's this goes so deep. It's so much damn invested in this to mislead that it can really be perceived as for me as not cutting clear that it is an indication of even in signal. because it's so easy for them to make it seem as if, or manipulate someone else to think that it is an, and that's why straight sort of communication is the only way. And yes, of course, I've been involved in this, and for a little while I sort of did this, but I mean that's not my style in terms of, at least not most of the time. I mean I like to have deep, interesting conversation, because the opportunity cost of just slänga dimmer ett år, som farsan brukar säga. Jävligt bra man som drog till det uttrycket. I mean, yeah, to just, I mean, I just, it was with Swedish, I just complimented my father for a term there is in Swedish. I don't know the name for it, but it's basically a name for that's just throwing out things that to make people confused, which is sort of destructive behavior. So yeah. Well, I lost my train of thought again, I guess. Yeah, sort of an end note on this. I mean, I realized something. Speaking about, I think I would end with this. That this is quite important. That people, and I said that earlier, including myself, are more sort of angry, arrogant. I mean, the argument that you don't take into account the reaction of someone else when you write on the internet, because you do not be afflicted about, if you say something rude to someone or sort of a cocky, people get sort of turned off if you're doing it in person, but you don't get that negative response or consequence if you're doing something messy or bad on the internet. And including that, people's insecurities, and then what to sort of show off, and we all have an interest in not appearing too sort of meek, and I've seen, I can be quite sort of, yeah, not sort of rude, but I mean I can be when I think it's necessary to make a point. I mean it can be good to sort of be a bit more harsh, but and I even think that these type of videos sometimes I mean, I don't know if I'm overly cocky necessarily, and not, but well, what getting at with this is basically, as I think it's important to know that the most admirable I mean, we can switch this for quite dark topics. If we just switch to simple, pure, what's admirable in the world, what's good, and that's sort of the deepest kind of love and wishing well for. That's sort of my foundational ethics that I've sort of formulated in. I remember sort of an early, remember actually, often you remember things that sort of associated, whether ingrain it in your mind the first time or something like that. I remember standing in the shower, sort of on foundation for what I value the most in the world. And what I think I get out sort of two things, and I think I've talked about this in my old videos that I recently also released on YouTube many years ago. I recorded them and just released. I think I had something like, it's basically one of those things is sort of akin to attitude or something, and the other thing is actually love. I mean, speaking of what it's, I don't know what the English name is, but I guess it's for Sweden, everywhere in the world is Love Day today. And that's a suitable topic to end on, I guess. I mean, that's the highest virtue or value you can have, to want to make good in this world, to want to make a good thing, to. And something that strikes me as, since I don't know, for example, that this person that I was introduced to or sort of in sort of an interaction, if they think I'm a criminal, for example, or whatever, um, it's I started to get aware of that. Perhaps I guess that to sort of learn my argumentations and stuff, they realize, well, I'm not super dumb at least, and I'm not. I have sound values, but I probably come off as a bit. I would like to think that a criminal person wouldn't reason that way if they actually watch it while I'm posting, which I don't know for sure at all. But because it was so much involved in this, it's quite a possibility that someone might actually focus on just in the marketing sort of way, and that's in sort of an um, attention way that if you're really affected by something as strongly, that really take some drastic actions, and that affected this person, and because they tricked me into doing it as part of this game and this thing. It's quite reasonable for that person to be focused on me to sort of like understand, because that was really fucking extreme. Extreme because of the circumstances that when I was tricked into doing it. But yeah, it's hard to describe really. But no, I lost my train of thought again. I really need to sleep, I guess. But yeah, love, I guess. So this could be a nasty person, it could be a good person, I don't know. But I guess I have sort of since so much of this that I'm involved in points at that person for some reason, I guess it's important for me to be clear about those type of things, and I guess I come off as a bit more uh, cocky or bad. I won't say that I'm a badass about myself, but yeah, you really make clear that I think it's really important to be whole of values really high in general too. I mean, you want kindness to spread the word. You want to world to prosper. You want good for people. I mean, it's such an. I mean, I remember I was. Yeah, this is sort of an essential thing. You can meditate on this sort of wishing the good for people. Yeah, I haven't practiced that much, but I remember doing it. It gives you positive emotions and stuff. So again, not always being in this sort of angry mode. There's so much in this happiness and wishing good for other people and loving people in different ways and being caring and all that. There's a lot to that, and I don't know where this is going. What I'm supposed to do. What I am. Um, and I'm not. But since the context of this is so harsh. I mean, this criminal thing from the beginning, tricking me to believe. I mean, that person perhaps is under that continuously, but get sort of a break from it, I guess. If I think I'm that person, but I've not actively involved with that person for a long time, and anyway, but so. Um, but I had my own things in this, very different kind of, which are super nasty. And that's all the why, and sort of a reason why it's quite hard to be too, let's say, meek in this, because it's, I mean, well, a pacifist was perhaps admirable in some sense, but if someone come in with tanks in your country, you must have tanks and you must have artillery. I mean, that's also true for the psychological sort of game or the psychological how you are. I mean, you can show a meek side or not meek. It depends on a loving side, but to do that for me, for example, in a circumstances where it's their basic psychotic behavior around me, or at least things that just rigged for me to inflict pain, to an extent that's like, yeah, my way of dealing is just seeing it as ridiculous and as them as inferior people doing it. Um, so, but I guess if you don't know, it goes back to this attractive personality and those type of things, and just it's just not it's also about attitude, how your interaction, how your I mean, it really, you treat people how they deserve to be treated. I mean, if it's a good person, you really treat that person really well, and if it's not, you don't, or you break the contact with them. And since I can't avoid these stupid people that just and just involved in this, I can't. I guess I can be loving and caring and sort of show that side, but it's really about what a single person deserves. And so I just realized that I am um, there's so many things to the human sort of spectrum and how you behave. That's so many modes of beings. Let's say that's not portrayed in every circumstance. That's why, like, or again and again, like this knowing person for a year to know if it's a good business partner, a good relationship. It's the same with videos. So if that person is watching and try to understand what is this like, uh, yeah, the basic way to evaluate that is almost impossible, or at least it's hard because you're only getting a glimpse. You can get the gist perhaps, but or sort of bet and say, well, this probably. But it's also the case that, like for me, when I observe and myself and how I'm talking in these videos, yeah, I for sure show a lot of spectrum in my human personality that I don't think I use all that often portray or act out at all circumstances. But it's also the case that I'm very different from how I actually, like for example, being very introverted is something that's very at the opposite of it. I mean, if you got one additional person, then I would talk 33% of the time, and the other person 66%, 67% of the time. And if it's more people, if it's two other people, I would probably took five on that. I think perhaps I'm exaggerating. I mean, a bit more talk more than earlier in life, but so yeah, this is really stark contrast to usually. Um, I've always been too proud to think of myself as shy. I don't think I well, the cocky side of myself will probably be to describe it as if I am well, it's hard to not be, but it should not be too. But I mean, some conversations are quite like, I mean, is it interesting? And yes, for sure, there are many interesting conversations that I could have been involved in that I do not because I don't have the habit of it. I'm just in the habit of listening most of the time. It's not that I'm not in the mode, not even in the mode of saying, "Oh gosh, I have to say something about in this because I have to get involved in the conversation." I've never really seen it as a problem necessarily. I don't, or at least not when I'm sitting there, sort of hearing a conversation. I'm either in the mode of just, well, I don't know if this is an interesting conversation, or in sort of a just so extremely used to listen to people. I mean, some people say that that's an indication of intelligence. I think they're really intelligent people who talk a lot also. But I mean, it's a good thing to be able to listen to other people. That's invaluable. It's really good skill. So I mean, that's sort of um, so. Yeah, but I don't think I am. But I guess that's sort of an yeah. I think it's still very true that it's hard to know extremely much about really understand someone only by sort of, for example, these type of videos and so so that's not the way forward. And I just thought that there's so much to human intelligence to be able to sort of navigate your spectral being kind and not kind, depending on what people do, but also just it's so much more than that. Just having fun, or sort of showing sympathy, or just sort of bite off at someone who's stepping over a line, or maybe initiate cooperation, reach out to people. So many. Oh, I don't. Now I think this is have gone to very slow paced in this communication, so I think it will end here. But some final thoughts. Now I can go back to that again. It's just try to do something really good in this world is what makes me tick. I think it's hopeful can take makes other people tick as well, and take some risks, not unreasonable risks, uh, but plug along and yeah. Get social, work reasonably hard, but even more important, work smart. Getting contacts in business and relationships, developing a skill, reading books, talking about it with yourself or with friends, um, using the internet for sure, finding what you're really good at in life, all those sort of insanely valuable advice. And that's at least how I can, best I can sort of get at it. But for my, not saying that I, of course, I'm not excellent in all those things. We all have our areas where we really have to develop, but yeah, I guess that's it. It's a bit hard to end this one. I don't know why. Maybe I know why. What? Maybe I don't know why. Maybe that doesn't matter. But it makes some difference. No, I want to end with a better pronunciation, an accurate pronunciation. I don't know what a dimmer is for. So I will better, after ruin it, just make some dinner.